Wow, happy Mother's Day. Glad you guys are here. Welcome, Canyon Country. Welcome those of you that might be seated outside, those of you that may be in the family room, those of you joining us online. Cool, we get to do this together. Hey, moms, hope your weekend is just awesome. And whether you're a mom or not, you just need to know we celebrate every woman and every girl is a part of this church, and we're so grateful to get to do life with you guys. You know, we're in this series where we're saying it's just complicated. Navigating relationships, just navigating life is complicated. And one of the things that complicates life more than anything else is just change, right? There's so much change that goes on through your life. In fact, the way I have looked at it is that life can be summed up pretty much by different modes of transportation. This is kind of how we start out. This is our first mode of transportation right here. Some of you probably got these in your house right now, but these little baby walkers, you know, you put your kid in there, and as a kid, that's the first time you sit in something, and you get to kind of move your feet and move all over the place. It's kind of awesome, and they put like Honey Nut Cheerios on the tray, and it's your like first drive-through experience, and you'll be doing that for the next 70 years of your life. And but it's just that's kind of where we start, and then we kind of graduate to one of these. And man, when you get one of these as a kid, it's like the coolest thing ever, right? You remember having a big wheel? There's some little boys that live on the cul-de-sac where my daughter lives, and they ride these things all the time. They're spinning out, you know, and they're just having so much fun on these things. I got a buddy who, when his kids were little, he would enter them in big wheel races and would tie, I'm not lying, he would tie concrete blocks on the back and force them to go up a hill to get their legs stronger so they could blow away the competition as 3-year-olds. And his kids, you know, they are world-class athletes these days, but that was a little extreme. But we graduate from that to this, and then we kind of get our first one of these. Now, probably most of you, growing up, when you had a bike, it had training wheels on it, right? Have you seen these Strider bikes? These are unbelievable. These are so cool. Like, kids can just sit on it. There's no training wheels. There's no brakes or anything. They just kind of get their feet going. Then they can put their feet up on like a little stand, and they can just fly on these things, and they put their feet down and drag themselves. But what it teaches them to do is teaches them to get their balance, and before long, man, they're ready to graduate to a brand new one of these. Do you remember your first bike? Did any of you like get one of these on a Christmas morning, and it was like the best thing ever? You walked in the living room, and there right by the tree is this brand new bike, and it's like, oh my goodness, you know, I'm no longer on one of these. I can ride one of these now, and it's got brakes and everything. Oh, this is so cool. My very first bike wasn't cool like this bike. My bike was a Stingray bike. Anybody old enough to remember a Stingray bike? Yeah, you had them too, like had big banana seat on it. Had these handlebars that came up like that. You felt like you were riding a big Harley or something, you know. And I don't know if anybody else did it or not, but I put baseball cards in my spokes. I took clothespins and put baseball cards all the way through the spokes. So when I would ride around, it was like, you know, I thought it was so cool. And I mastered this thing. I live really close to a park, and I grew up playing baseball. I was at the park every day with baseball practice and stuff. So I would put my glove on the handlebars of the Stingray bike, and I would ride to the park with my baseball glove on my handlebars, and I perfected this thing where I could just go, I'm like going almost full speed, and I could jump off my bike and grab my glove off the handlebar in the same motion and just let my bike slide all the way, and it would crash into the chain link fence like, I'm here. It was just kind of one of those, when you got a bike as a kid, man, it's just such a freeing feeling. But man, that childhood thing goes pretty quickly, doesn't it? And things can get confusing, and there's this period between, you know, when a bike is cool and before you get your driver's license. This is pretty much your mode of transportation. Anybody good at one of these things? You know, it's that period of life where, you know, you're like 7th, 8th grade, 6th grade, and you know, it's just an awkward time of life, and that's a pretty good mode of transportation for an awkward time of life, because it's kind of helping you get your balance, and but that's that season of your life where everything's changing. Just everything seems to be changing, and then you finally, you know, get your driver's license, and you get one of these, and oh my goodness! I remember when I first got my license. I mean, you might be like me. I would get in that car, and I would go anywhere my parents wanted me to go. You need milk? I'll go get it, you know. Need me to back it out of the driveway? I'll back it out of the driveway. I just wanted to be behind the wheel of that car. It was something so cool and so mature about having your driver's license, you know. I can remember my very first vehicle. You guys remember your first car? My first car, I guarantee you, your first car was not like my first car. You know what my first car was? A mail truck, where you drove on the right side. My dad was a bit eclectic, and he worked at the post office, so he bought an old mail truck. And I had a cage in the back. It's this flat box truck, and I sat on a stool, and I drove like that on the right side, and the door, shifted open like that. I mean, chicks dig the mail truck. No, it was goofy looking, but it was a vehicle. I got to drive my own vehicle around for a while. And I can remember, going to the prom, and driving your date to the prom. And man, I just remember, you're driving around, and your girlfriend's like sitting right here. You got your arm around her, you're driving, then before long you get married and she moves way over there, and now you're driving, and then you look around, you got all these car seats in the back, and you're no longer in like a cool car, you're like in a minivan, you know what I'm talking about? And these kids are all back there kicking the back of your seat and stuff. I mean, it's just a series of changes, and then one day it's just the two of you, and you're driving around with some old woman going to eat at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, I'm just telling you, that's just kind of the way it goes. It's just the changing of seasons. And then I think there's a point in your life where you go, you know what, man, I refuse to get old. I refuse. You kind of go through a little midlife crisis. I don't know whether any of you guys are going through that right now, but sometimes we say, I'm never driving another minivan as long as I live. I'm getting one of these, right? And you get one of these. You should not have one of these, but you got one of these. It's like, get your motor running, down up on that highway, and the wind is blowing through your scalp, and you just think, man, I'm the baddest man around, and then your next mode of transportation is this, because you had no business being on one of those, and now you're here for at least 6 weeks because you got your leg and your ribs are messed up, and you know what? Some folks, this is their mode of transportation. I know some of you, it takes a lot of effort for you to come each week, because maybe this is your mode of transportation, and it's been that for a long time. And I got to tell you, you're such a hero. And in fact, on June the 3rd, yeah, on June the 3rd, we're throwing a party for special needs students, and it's called A Night to Remember. Did it last year, and I've been involved in these for quite some time, and it is just a thrill to see students, 15 to 25 years old, come to a prom, thrown especially for them, where they are the VIP of the night. We got red carpet and limos, and a lot of them will show up in their mode of transportation. But it's so cool to watch other students dance with people in wheelchairs, and it's just a great moment. If you got any margin in your life and you want to help out, be part of the paparazzi or volunteer, well, sure could use you at A Night to Remember, and it'll be a night you'll never forget as you kind of make somebody's special day. So, some of you know who Johnny Erickson Tada is. She lives down the Agora Hills, and she's an incredible person. I mean, she was paralyzed in a diving accident as a 16-year-old, and she's been a quadriplegic for over 50 years now. She paints incredible paintings by holding a brush between her teeth. She writes songs, she writes books. She has this incredible ministry called Johnny and Friends that reaches out to people with disabilities and special needs, and she's a phenomenal person. I'll never forget a little poem that she wrote in her book called Heaven, My Real Home. And it said this: though I spend my mortal lifetime in this chair, I refuse to waste it living in despair. And though others may receive gifts of healing, I believe he has given me a gift beyond compare. For heaven is nearer to me, and at times it is all I can see. Sweet music I hear coming down to my ear, and I know that it's playing for me. For I am Christ's own bride, and I will stand by his side. And he will say, shall we dance? And our endless romance will be worth all the tears that I've cried. This is one of the final modes of transportation. There's a guy in our neighborhood, his name is Dan. And man, he is a hero. I tell him all the time, you're Dan the man. I don't know how old he is, but he goes 2 miles a day around our neighborhood. It's 1 mile all the way around. He goes around 2 times every single day. I'm not kidding you. He doesn't go this fast. I don't know how long it takes him to get around the block, but he does it every single day, twice. And I just go, man, I want to be you when I grow up, you know. This is kind of one of the final modes of transportation. So for me, it's kind of like life, this change of life. It's pretty much from the walker to the walker, right? It's just kind of the normal flow of things. It always doesn't work out that way. But for a lot of us, that's kind of the way it is, from the walker to the walker. So I just want to give you just a couple of insights. This is not earth-shattering stuff whatsoever. I just want to give you something simple to think about this weekend that's been profound to me, though. You know, the simple things are usually the most profound. And the first one is this, for me, life is so short. You guys realize that all this happens in the blink of an eye? I mean, when I was sitting over here and telling you guys about going, it was like yesterday I went to the prom. It was like yesterday I was riding my bike down a Little League field with my glove hanging from the handlebar. That just happened like a couple of weeks ago, it feels like to me. But man, it just goes so fast. My wife and I, Debbie, live over in Ventura with our kids. And early in the morning, a lot of times a marine layer kind of rolls in over the beach and kind of goes inland quite a ways. But it always burns off around 9 o'clock. Well, check out this verse from James chapter 4, verse 14. It says this, your life is like the morning fog. It's just here for a little while. And then it burns off around 9 o'clock. And you're going to go, wow, that went so fast. That's why old man Moses wrote in Psalm chapter 90, he said, God, just teach us. Teach us to number our days and recognize just how few they are. Help us to spend them as we should, because it goes so fast. There was this wise man named Solomon. He squandered a lot of his wisdom, but at the end of his life, he looked back and he wrote a journal called Ecclesiastes, and he kind of comes to a conclusion in Ecclesiastes chapter 12. He says, listen, just hook up with God. Do life His way. That's the reason we were put on the planet. I mean, a lot of wisdom flows out of him. But look what he says in chapter 12. This is just great advice for any of us going through any of these seasons. He says, just remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Remember Him in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come and the years approach where you say, I find no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon, the stars grow dark and the clouds return after the rain. Before that time in your life where you have battles with depression and you start feeling, some feelings of uselessness, and you start losing loved ones and things just feel kind of dark and gray. He says, when the keepers of the house tremble, what do you think he's talking about there? Talking about when you get that point in your life where your hands are not as steady as they used to be. And when strong men stoop, that's when you start going to the chiropractor all the time because your back just goes out. When the grinders cease because they are few. What do you think he's talking about? He's talking about your teeth kind of breaking down and falling out. And those looking through windows grow dim. What do you think he's talking about there? Yeah, your eyesight just gets worse and worse. When the doors to the street are closed, that's where you can't go outside like you used to. Maybe you're kind of shut in. Or the sound of grinding fades. You just don't go to work anymore because you can't work anymore. When men rise up at the sound of birds, you get up early and earlier most time to go to the bathroom, right? But you rise up at the sound of birds, but all their songs grow faint. The birds are chirping, but you can't hear them anyway, right? When men are afraid of heights, where you get to that point in your life going, I'm not getting on that roof anymore. I'm not climbing that ladder anymore. Or afraid of danger in the streets, where you start thinking, man, it's a dangerous world out there. I better be careful. And the almond tree blossoms. That's when your hair turns white. How I wish that was true of me. And the grasshopper drags himself along. That's like my buddy Dan, just kind of shuffling. And desire is no longer stirred. You can figure that one out on your own. Then man goes to his eternal home and mourners go about the streets. He's saying, listen, before all that happens, Make sure you're doing life with God. Don't wait till you're over here to hook up with your Creator. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Do life with God all the way through these seasons, from the walker to the walker. Make sure that you hook up with the one who made you, because that's the reason he made you, to do life with you. Life is so short. This happens in a blink of an eye. The second thing I've learned, and this has been such a rock for me, in the midst of all this change, God is so faithful. He is unmovable. He's unshakable. He is the one constant you can depend upon. In the midst of all this dramatic change, look what it says about Jesus Christ in Hebrews. It says Jesus Christ is the what? He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He's constant. He's dependable. His mercies are new every morning, and his unfailing love endures forever through every single season of life. And I'm just guessing some of you probably need to hear that today. Because I'm guessing some of you are in this season right now. I mean, you know, it's Happy Mother's Day, and you can kind of get a day off. But I bet some of you right now are in that season where you got toddlers running around the house, and you're just going, whew, when is this going to be over? In the blink of an eye, let me tell you. It's going to be over in the blink of an eye. But you need to know, in the midst of all the craziness and all the chaos, God's with you. He's smiling at you. He's giving you strength. He's giving you peace. Lean into him. Lean into his wisdom. Just know that he is so faithful in this season of your life. Or maybe you got like one of these and one of these and one of these all at the same time, and you kind of feel like all I do is take kids everywhere, right? I'm going to soccer practice, I'm going to ballet practice, I'm going to gymnastics, I'm picking them up from school, and then we're going to church and all these different activities, and go, oh my goodness, lean into God. He's faithful. He is so constant. He is so rock solid in the midst of your chaos. And maybe just be still in this season and know that he is God more often, so that he can bring a sense of sanity into your life. And I'm just guessing, and I know this day is hard for lots of people for different reasons, but I'm guessing some of you are kind of in that season where you're longing for something like this to happen in your life. Maybe like my son and daughter-in-law, and you went through going through some tough, infertility type stuff, or just longing to have a kid, but it's just not happening. And I know personally there's a lot of heartbreak involved in that. And I just want to let you know God's faithful. And he sees your tears, and he's close to the brokenhearted, and he rescues those who are crushed in spirit. And he is so faithful during this season, and he'll make a way. Some of you may be waiting for an adoption to take place. Some of you may be a foster parent right now. You go, wow, this is a difficult transitional type of time in our life. We're trying to be like a mom and dad to this kid, but is not really our kid, but just lean into God. He's faithful during this time, and you never know the seeds that might get planted in that child's life. God's so faithful in every one of these seasons. Or maybe right now you're a kid, and you kind of graduated from the freeness, the freedom of having a bike and the fun of childhood, and you're in that stage right now where it's just kind of weird for you right now. Maybe you're a middle schooler or a freshman in high school or something. You're just going, wow, everything's changing. My friendships are changing. My school is changing. We moved to a different house, and my body is changing, and my voice is changing, and all kinds of stuff. It's just, you need to know, guys, God is so faithful. He is with you. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Hook up with him right now, because he loves you exactly the way you are. You could not be any more special to him than you are to him. So just remember your Creator and walk through life knowing that he loves you with his unfailing love. And remember, you are accepted by the one who matters most. And if you matter to God, that's pretty much all that really matters. Or maybe you're in the season right now where you kind of, got your license. And this is that season of your life where it's kind of been fun. It's been challenging, but maybe you just went to the prom for the first time. And maybe you drove your date for the first time. Maybe, she sat right here. Maybe you guys were close, and it's kind of a cool season of your life. Or maybe you're graduating, or maybe you graduated, in this week or in a couple of weeks. In that season of your life, everything just seems to be changing, and the future is so uncertain. But you need to know this: in the midst of an uncertain future, you got a certain God. A God who says, I know the plans I have for you. I got plans to give you a future and a hope. I'm going to use your life to do amazing things in this world. I'm going to touch your life. I'm going to touch other people's life through your unique life, and you're going to leave a legacy. Or maybe you're in that season where you're watching a child drive out of the driveway for the last time. They're heading off to college, or maybe they graduate. You sat there this week or in a couple of weeks and tears are running down your face. You can't believe the one that used to sit in that little baby walker is now walking down an aisle with a cap and gown on. They're getting a diploma. You go, when did this happen? And it's just been kind of a hard season for you. Just know God is faithful. And he's going to be with you as you kind of go through the change of what's happening in our family. And I want to let you know this too. When some of you talk about, now we're going to be empty nesters. Oh, that's a myth. They come back. And they bring others with them. It's just, and their laundry and everything. They're just empty. Enjoy like the 2 days that it's empty. Because pretty soon, you know what's going to happen to your car again? You're going to get a minivan as a grandparent. And you're going to have car seats in the back of your van again. It's just going to happen. And enjoy that season. Embrace that season. Because God is faithful during that too. This, honestly, out of all these seasons of my life, and I've had a blast at every stop along the way, but this is one of the funnest seasons of my life right now. I love being able to pour into our little grandkids right now. I was going to show a video to you today, but grandparents do that, so I didn't want to do that. But we got a little 2-year-old who's just learning this a few weeks ago. She learned to get in the pool with her swimmies on for the first time. She was terrified of water. But all like in one day, she faced her fear and she got in the water and she had her swimmies on. They let her go. And there's the video, they go, swim to the side. She goes, I can't. I'm doing it. All in the same breath. It was awesome. And if you're in that season, just embrace this season. It's a season of change, just like every season has been of change. But God is constant in Jesus Christ. He's the same one who was with you then. He's with you now. Some of you guys really may be kind of here where you're going, I don't know, man. My life feels boring right now, a little adventure in my life. If I could just do something, little adrenaline rush. I just want to challenge you, if that's what you're feeling right now, you see your life instead of a midlife crisis, like Bob Buford wrote in his classic book, Halftime. See it as halftime. And you know what happens in sports teams after halftime? They come out smoking in the third and fourth quarter. And honestly, as I look around, some of you are in the fourth quarter. Some of you are in overtime, to be honest. But man, just make it count. Kind of move from, I got to be a success, to move from that to, I want to be significant. I want to leave a lasting legacy with my life for the time that I got left. And some of you really might be in one of these seasons. And it's just not as easy to get around as it used to be. And man, we celebrate you and the way you have gracefully aged. And it was so cool just a few weeks ago to baptize. It got progressively higher. It was so cool. One service was a 65-year-old guy, then a 75-year-old woman, and then an 85-year-old man baptized in that pool. It's never too late to start walking with God. It really isn't, no matter what your physical shape may be. Some of you, maybe Mother's Day is kind of a hard weekend for you because you lost your mom, and I'm with you on that. But I choose to celebrate the reality of heaven and the God that is close to the brokenhearted and rescues those who are crushed in spirit. Some of you may be in the season that I went through where it's that season where the child becomes the parent and the parent becomes the child. And that's not an easy season. I'm grateful for that season, but it was not an easy season. It was a challenging season for me and my wife. I'm an only kid, which probably explains a lot about me. But therefore, I became the primary caretaker for my parents when they started breaking down. And my dad, I think, I've told you guys some of these stories before. My dad, he was a character with a capital C. Let's just put it that way. My dad went through a whole lot in his life. I don't have time to tell you his whole story, but it's pretty wild. But my dad also battled with mental illness, with schizophrenia, with bipolar. When he was on his meds, my dad was, he was just like the coolest guy ever and just pretty chill. And you would not know he struggled with anything. He was a great guy, period. But when he got to be 80, he said, I'm tired of taking these meds. He quit taking them. And when my dad wasn't on his medication, he was off the chart manic. He just walked fast, talked fast, did things that just made no sense whatsoever. He would go to Lowe's and buy 10,000 light bulbs. Stuff like, and I would take them all back. It was just like that's the way it was, and it got to be pretty wild just chasing him around. Money just went like, Well, anyway, a buddy of mine called me one day and said, bro, your dad, I just saw him on New Circle Road, and he was driving 100 miles an hour. I mean, literally 100 miles an hour. I said, oh, man. He had like 4 or 5 little wrecks and stuff. And so I knew it was time. And I don't know whether you've ever done this or not, but it's a hard thing to do. I went to the guy that taught me how to drive and said, Dad, you can't do this anymore. I'll take you wherever you need to go, but you're going to have to give me your keys. You're going to kill somebody. You're going to kill yourself. And it's just not fair to have you out there on the road like that to other people. He goes, all right. I said, you'll take me anywhere. I said, yeah, I'll take you anywhere, I promise. Just call me any time of the day. Reached in his pocket, handed me his keys. And I thought I was going to bawl right there. I left, went home. About an hour later, I was feeling so bad. I called back over to the house, said, Mom, let me talk to Dad. And she goes, he's not here. I said, what do you mean he's not there? He goes, he went to the store. I said, went to the store? My dad totally played me in the moment. He had like 5 sets of keys. He just as soon as I was gone, he was out the door going 100 miles an hour. So I had to get all of his keys and all of his cars because he bought a bunch of cars too, and had to take them over and sell them all. It was just challenging. And 82 years of age, my dad, he had crammed 250 years into living, believe me, and just fell dead of a heart attack. And I can't wait to see him in heaven again. But at the same time, it made this doubly challenging for us. My mom had Alzheimer's at the same time. And it progressively got worse. And we tried it after my dad passed away, and she didn't really understand what had happened there. But after my dad passed away, we tried to keep her in the house by herself because she had a lot of pride and a little bit stubborn streak. And we wanted to honor that too. We wanted to try to make her as happy as she could be, but it was just wasn't a real healthy thing, so we checked on her all the time. In fact, we rented a house next door and moved our daughter in and told my mom, hey, Jody's going to live next door. Keep an eye on Jody, would you? Of course, Jody was keeping an eye on my mom. But it just got progressively worse. I remember one day I went over and I said, how you doing today, Mom? She goes, well, this lady is here. She's driving me crazy. I said, there's a lady here? She goes, yes. And she eats all the time. I can't afford to feed her. And she scares me. She's this old lady, and I don't want her here. I said, okay, Mom, where is she? She goes, she's back there. So it took me down the hallway into the bedroom, swings open the door, and she stands in front of the mirror. He goes, there she is right there. And I knew I couldn't explain to her, that's your reflection, I just went, oh, she looks like a nice lady to me, Mom. I said, would it be okay if she came home and stayed with us? She goes, yes, get her out of here. So, of course, I took the mirror off the wall, put it in my truck, and drove home with the lady. And came back the next day, and my mom said, that woman's back. I said, she's not. So I had to take every mirror out of that house that I could find. And came back the third day and said, how you doing? She goes, that woman, I can't live with her. She's about to break the bank. I can't feed her anymore. And I said, Mom, she's not here. She goes, yes, she is. And I'd missed a mirror in a little storage room. I walk in this little room, and she had an old dresser with a mirror attached to the back of it. Where the top of the dresser was here and the bottom of the mirror was like right there's a gap in between. When I pulled that dresser out from the wall to unscrew it from the back of the dresser, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry because there was a pile of food behind that dresser. I'm talking Pringles, green beans, Jell-O, Pop-Tarts, whatever you can imagine. Like a pile for months. She had been from her hand to the hand of that woman, feeding her every day. And so we knew that, something had to change, and that went from some total assisted care living to skilled nursing care, and she went downhill very quickly. For the past 2 years, she didn't really know who I was, but she knew who I was. And when she went to hospice, and I spent some time there in her last days just by her side. And the nurse told me, she goes, your mom doesn't know you, but she knows you. So you need to let her go to heaven and just go home and get some rest. So I said, okay. So I left. A couple hours later, they called me back to the hospital and said, she's gone. And so I walked in the room, and it was just a surreal scene. Somebody had dimmed the lights down real dim, and she was lying there in her bed, and they'd put a CD in a player and hit repeat. It was just playing over and over, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. And I just pulled up a chair and sat down there and took my mom's hand and just thanked God for how faithful he had been through the whole process. Just knowing that heaven is real. We're all going to be together someday in our right mind, our right body. And I just had one of those worship moments there at the side of her bed that I'll never forget. He's faithful in every one of these seasons, you guys. No matter what you're going through, no matter how much change is happening in your life, God is faithful. He's constant. He's dependable. He wipes your tears. He gives you peace that is unexplainable. I'm telling you from experience, because I've just about experienced every one of these stops along the way now. He's faithful. I want us to read an old song. It was written in the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms in the middle of the Bible, it's just like lyrics to songs, really. So I want to read it like the song that it was originally created to be. So when we get to the chorus, I want you guys to kind of shout out the chorus, okay? Like we're really singing full voice. Don't give it a kind of a lame reading. I want you to really kind of, you when we hit the chorus, you guys hit the chorus. And the chorus is, his love endures forever. So I'm going to read the first part. You come back with his love endures forever. Here we go. Give thanks to the God of gods. That was pathetic. You got to say it like you mean it. Here we go. Let's try it again. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good.
His love endures forever.
Yeah, give thanks to the God of gods.
His love endures forever.
Give thanks to the Lord of lords.
His love endures forever.
To him who alone does great wonders.
His love endures forever.
Who by his understanding made the heavens.
His love endures forever.
Who spread out the earth upon the waters.
His love endures forever.
Who made the great lights. The sun that governed the day, the moon and stars that govern the night. Give thanks to the God of heaven. His love endures forever. Gang, life is short. God is faithful. So I choose joy. From the walker to the walker. Let's pray. Father, so grateful for you, and really super grateful we can just call you Father. As you are, as we sing around here a bunch, you are a good Father. No one like you. Thank you for your faithfulness. We know this life is unpredictable. It's hard sometimes, super challenging. And Jesus, you told us that. You told us in this life, you're just going to have trouble. It's expected to come, but I'm with you. And the peace I give you is not like the peace the world tries to give. I give you calm right in the middle of the conflict, right in the middle of the change. And so, God, for all of us that are going through some kind of change along the way here, I pray that we would know today that this all happens in the blink of an eye, and that you are faithful through every single season. God, I celebrate moms today, just some of the greatest people in the world, sacrificial, and the way they love and care and give. God, I pray that you give them supernatural energy to be the kind of people that you want them to be. And God, I pray for people that are wrestling with all kinds of different emotions about this day, the kind of grief. I pray that you just give them peace and just let them know that you're faithful, that you collect all of our tears in a bottle, and that you can't wait for the day that we get to embrace you and the way you're working behind the scenes, doing things that we never dreamed you'd be doing. And God, I pray for every student in this place today that may be going through significant changes with graduation and future plans and all that, and families that are navigating that, God. I pray that they would sense your supernatural peace as well. I pray for people maybe right now are kind of in that kind of halftime part of their life. I pray that they would just take a different look at their life and just go, God, I want to move from just being successful and making money to making a difference with my life. And God, I pray that for those that just having like trouble getting around these days, they're just watching their body break down, and I pray that they would just lean into you for these days of their life and just choose joy through the whole thing and find people to mentor and coach and to inspire. And God, I thank you for so many people in this place that do that with their life. So Father, we're so grateful for you. Thank you for the way that you're able to take difficult situations through life and just make them beautiful. We're so grateful for the way you're working in every season of our life. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.